Alright, Arthur here. I promised in a previous clip that I made that may have already uploaded on music commentary. Here is the first of clips that I wanted to share with my friends and anybody interested on my favorite songs of 2011. I just finished making 220 songs, and I finished at 220 on New Year's Eve. I just finished all the rankings. I came up with 220 songs that I deemed worthy to make my rankings, and then kind of chopped off the rest from my playlist. And so I am definitely planning on doing clips of my 20 favorite songs, probably some grouped together, and then work my way up to my favorite song of the year, because some of the ones, especially in my top 10, I could make large clips just talking about. And I was also going to touch on the rest of my rankings, any songs of interest. And I thought for this clip I'm going to share what I deem the disappointments of 2011, because especially when it was coming down to which songs would make my cut and which wouldn't, it kind of struck me that there were several artists that in the past have with their potential I would have expected them to have done a lot better than they did. So this clip will be about those disappointments. The first place to start with is American Idol. American Idol for 2011, former idols kind of fell shorter than usual, I thought, than in past years. And I understand what a crapshoot American Idol is. Anybody who's a fellow fan of that show knows, even when people win the show, they could fall like a stone. So there were a lot of Idol releases. Some of them did well. But I'll start with the most recent idol, Scotty McCreery. This very likable kid who had a very strong stage presence, I thought, and really performed his genre of country very well. And I still maintain could make a solid recording artist. It just didn't happen with his first album. I have listened to it a couple times. Overall, nothing very memorable has stuck out. And it included his Idol coronation inaugural song that they always like to make them sing, I Love You This Big. And I tried to be very open-minded about it. I kept it in my iTunes playlist and would listen to it when it would come up. And I'm sorry, I just can't. It was one of the ones that did not make my cut for 220 songs, so that got zapped. Now, The Trouble with Girls, the other single from the album, did make it. It did make it to 184. That it kind of shows some potential that he has, but it's not nearly measuring up to some of the other idols or other artists that make the upper reaches or mid reaches of my rankings. So there's that. Another former winner who really just did sink like a stone after having quite a solid string of hits after her victory was Jordan Sparks. In fact, actually, I guess her third album hasn't even been released yet. She just performed this single, I Am Woman, and I'm sorry, but Helen Reddy owns that title, so right there, that kind of didn't help. But I thought it would be a good song of empowerment, and it just sounded like a mess to me. I just didn't get it. It didn't really bring anything new to the table, and it did not make my cut at all. So that's gone. That's not listed. So, and that was kind of a disappointment, definitely. Another one who has done very well on my rankings and is in the country genre and is probably the most successful, maybe even more successful than Kelly Clarkson, and that's Carrie Underwood. She was in my top 10 with Jesus Take the Wheel. Before He Cheats did excellent on my rankings in past years. She had this single called Mama's Song, which is a very sweet kind of treacly song about this guy who treats her well, and she's reassuring her mama and mom that everything will be fine. And I would think that would be a compelling topic for a country song. And, you know, it was nice. It didn't really grab me right here. It just seemed very tentative. It did make my rankings just. It got in at 217. It was, you know, just made it. So hopefully she'll do better in future years. And then sticking with idols, I guess I have to mention, as much as I don't want to, Jennifer Hudson. She came out with an anticipated album this year and had all the makings to do really solidly at the level of Spotlight, well, how that did on my rankings, and that fell short. There were actually 4 songs that she made my rankings with, but they were almost all of them were quite low down. Her remake of Feelin' Good, which I thought I would have liked better, finished at 174. She was at 187 and 211 with other songs from that album. Where You At was reasonable. I liked that. That did make it to 135 on my rankings, which is, you know, considering how competitive this year wasn't shabby. But still, I was expecting more from her. Now, moving out of Idol, and I'm kind of bracing myself for some of my friends to really get on me for this, but there was Beyonce. Beyonce came out with a new album, and several of my friends were trying to insist to me that, yes, her output this year measures up with her other stuff. And I'm sorry, I compared it with other songs and just the response when I listened to her 2 singles that came out this year, and no. You know, Who Won the World, Girls, it was just, you know, it got played constantly. It's catchy, but it would just annoy me after a few listens. And then Best Thing I Never Had really didn't make an impact on me. And interestingly, when I was parsing out the songs, they both ended up back-to-back. Best Thing I Never Had was 190, and Run the World was 189. You know, so she made it. She's Beyonce. You know, she is a great singer. So even those songs did make my rankings, but not nowhere in the same town as Irreplaceable or Halo or Crazy in Love or Ring the Alarm or any of that. I'm sorry. Sorry, guys. That's just where it is. And then finally, I'm going to include Florence and the Machine in this ranking, partly because Florence and the Machine stole my #1 song of the year halfway through the year. I heard Dog Days, and after 6 listens, it's like, that's my favorite song of the year. There isn't going to be anything out the rest of last year that will come anywhere close to it, and I was right. The rest of her album, Lungs, though, nothing really grabbed me anywhere close to like Dog Days. And it's sort of similar with her current album. There were 2 singles from it. Shake It Out is okay. It did make 192. It did make my rankings, but it kind of just was too repetitive in the wrong ways, and it didn't really grab me. Now, on the other hand, What the Water gave me, that actually did quite solid. That was a solid 70, actually. So I'm kind of 2 minds of hers, but I'm definitely interested in following her. So that's the segment on what I term the disappointments of 2011. My next segment will be other interesting songs of note that didn't make my top 20, but I felt are worthy of mentioning for this year. So thank you for anybody who heard me out and listened to me spout off about some of my favorites of 2011. All right, thanks.